I do believe it's one of the greatest accomplishments in football history. So proud of Joe Burrow, the leadership that he brought to our football team. He's one of the best football players I've seen in a long time. He's even a better young man. So proud of our coaching staff, the job that they did all year. We started working last January 17th was our first football school. We worked 1 year, and I remind the team of how we got here. And, the team had a rule all season, no bar rooms, be disciplined, take care of your business, and for the most part, they did that. I hope they learned life lessons, how to persevere, how to pull together as a team, how to work without egos, how to pull for each other, how to fight. We're down, I don't know what, couple of scores last night. We didn't blink, and how to believe in each other. What a tremendous testament to our football team. So proud for everybody that wore the purple and gold. We had a lot of guys in the dressing room last night that were proud of our football team, proud of the state of Louisiana, and we're happy. We're going to enjoy this, but it's a recruiting weekend this weekend. We're going to start recruiting, get after it, and on to next year. Yeah, I think this is the team for the ages, especially how prolific we were on offense, and to have that type of quarterback that we have, to go 15-0 and to beat the teams that we beat, all the top teams we played, we beat them, obviously. We had a tremendous schedule. We answered the bell. These guys didn't blink. We didn't have a bad game. We played 15 good football games, and
we welcome you back. Second hour is live, and we are having quite a party here. Can you imagine what's going on in Louisiana? Well, a native Louisianan is about to join us, Ross Dellinger, who used to cover the Tigers for The Advocate. Now he covers them for Sports Illustrated, and this is the new digital cover that I'm sure every Tiger fan will want to jump on. Ross Dellinger joining us after a long night in New Orleans. Ross, great to have you on, and I have asked you many times about this journey, which you have chronicled pretty much every step of the way. I know it seems like a lot of people saw it coming today, but you saw it from the beginning. I mean, what were the odds when the Orgeron train started in Baton Rouge to end up where we were early this morning?
Oh man, the odds were long. I would say, and it's funny because during this season, the LSU fan community and others in college football, I think, have gone back, basically got old stories or old tweets from writers and kind of blasted them out. Writers criticizing the Orgeron hire. But, Paul, I was really close to the program when they made that hire, and there were LSU fans themselves questioning that hire, quite a bit of them. And I remember receiving the emails as a beat writer and the messages during that time from LSU fans who were just irate that Joe Oliva didn't get his man in Tom Herman or didn't go get Jimbo Fisher. So it wasn't just media, it wasn't just others around the country. I mean, this was a hire that, I spent some time about a month ago down on the bayou where Ed Orgeron's from, and you should have heard those people. And they talked about all the LSU fans themselves and those in Louisiana who doubted this hire. So it was doubted in so many ways by so many people. And now here we sit in year 3. Ed Orgeron didn't just deliver a phenomenal season, but it ends as a SEC champion and a national champion, and who knows? I mean, maybe the best team of all time, or certainly one of them. I mean, look at 7 top 10 wins, the most of any team in the history of college football.
And by the way, Ross, fans had every right to doubt and question and be skeptical of Ed Orgeron. His record was fairly checkered, and in some ways he was fairly fortunate, I think, to get this opportunity, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I think you're right. You know, fans did have, and the writers, all of us had our there were facts to back up opinions. I think, and I was a beat writer then. I didn't really make much public opinion, but those who did had facts to back it up. You know, 10-25 at Ole Miss. You know, that's a big one there. You know, that's a big fact there. You know, but what he did as LSU as interim coach. And some of the things that fell, the dominoes that kind of fell, as I wrote about in September with Tom Herman and Jimbo Fisher, kind of led to this day. But there's no doubt that you know he exceeded probably exceeded all expectation, and certainly everybody had a right to question what happened, and it was a risky. It was a risky move in a lot of ways by Joe Oliva and his search committee, but obviously it paid off.
And I think one of the most interesting moments came in the aftermath of the Troy loss a couple of years ago. I think Matt Canada was there, and do I remember correctly, Oliva called everyone in to try to get them on the same page, because that looked like the coaching staff was about to blow up.
Yeah, that was I was on the beat then. That was that 2017 season, Paul. You know, I lost quite a bit of hair that season. It was one of the most craziest, certainly football seasons I've ever covered. Probably the craziest, and a lot of things happening. And the Troy loss being one of them. It's funny. The next week, you know, LSU won at Florida. It was crazy. So just to give the brief story there. You know, Matt Canada was hired as Orgeron's first offensive coordinator, and you know what, Paul? Matt has had great offenses at a lot of different places. I think he's respected in his offenses in college football. I think around a lot of circles. Sometimes people just don't get along, Paul, and I think there was a personality deal with Matt and Ed Orgeron, and it just didn't work. And things came to a head after the Troy game. You know, I think Ed Orgeron admitted, you know, he had influence on Matt and told him basically stop running your offense, you know, and they did, and it ended in a Troy loss, and Ed kind of left Matt alone the rest of the year, and then they actually reeled off, I think, won 5 of them in that last 6 regular season games. But that was a huge – it's funny, you brought this up. I was talking to an assistant last night about that. And that was a huge turning point in that season, in Ed's first year, because they lost at home to Troy. Joe Oliva basically, I don't know if it was Joe Oliva who called the meeting, but Joe Oliva, Dave Aranda, Matt Canada, and Ed Orgeron all had basically a come to Jesus, you know. And you know, it depends on who you talk to. What is you know, for information from that meeting, it's wide ranging. It just depends on who you ask, but clearly they had an understanding of how things, you know, got everything out on the table. You know, got everything out on the table about some issues and personality wise and offensive issues, and they turned around the next week and they went down and beat Florida, and that was a huge win, and it's like this turning point for the LSU football team that year. And I think I want to say later in the season they rallied down 20 points at home to Auburn.
Yeah, that is correct.
You know, Paul, look, I'm going to tell you what, and I don't think I've ever said this before, but it's long enough now, and I was a beat writer then, so I was really close to powerful people at that school. And let me tell you what, they don't beat Florida, you know, upset Florida, and they don't win that Auburn game, come back and win that Auburn game. They lose those 2 games, and things kind of spiral a little bit, and heck, you know, they finish 6-6 or something. Ed Orgeron is probably not LSU's coach at the end of that season. That's how things were at that time in Baton Rouge. That season was a crazy one, and there's a lot of things that had to fall right for this to happen, what we saw last night in the Superdome. And you got to go back to that season, that mid-season surge. You know, you go back to that's probably the farthest back. You know, you go and and you look at what happened then. But it's funny you bring that up because, I was talking to an assistant last night about that, and I actually tweeted out his quote. It had a curse word in it, but it was, just couldn't believe that just 2 years ago, here LSU was losing at home to Troy, and now here they are completing maybe the best season in college football history.
Yeah, I did see the curse word in there. The question a lot of people have, and I know what you're going to say, but I want to just put it on the table. Is this sustainable for Coach O without Joe Burrow?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people are asking that. I'll tell you this. Ed Orgeron's got the recruiting going. Obviously, we know that's kind of lifeblood of a program, and he's known as that great recruiter anyway, and he's in a talent-rich state. All of that is certainly moving in the right direction. There's no doubt. It's moving in the right direction in a good one. So they've at least got that. What Ed's got to do is, in what he's done, and that's identify weaknesses on his team and go out and plug them with better people, whether that's on the staff or whether that's on his roster for his players. He's got to look at both. He did that with Joe Brady, bringing him in to overhaul an offense, knew it needed to happen. Did it with Joe Burrow, saw a weakness at quarterback. Did it with Thad Moss, tight end. And actually, it's funny, Matt Canada and Thad Moss had a relationship, and that's kind of how he got to Baton Rouge. But Ed went out and not afraid to go get transfers. He's not. So he knows if better players are out there to fill his roster or coaching staff, he's going to go do it. That's what he's got to continue to do, Paul, I think, to sustain this, is continue to recruit like they are and go out and get the best people, whether they're players or whether they're coaches, and get them in and replace potential weak spots on the team.
Ross, there's so many residuals from something like this, aside from the money the school makes and the newspaper makes and the Dick's and Walmart and all those people make. But would you say the biggest residual is in recruiting, where players who are already, things were already going well and now go, man, I got to go play for this guy?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And he just, and it's not just him, it's now this offense, I mean, Ed Orgeron was a draw himself. You see, just like memes and things with Ed circulating around Twitter and things like that. I mean, recruits see that, and to them, I think that excites them. They want to play for that man. But look at what's going on offensively, and that's the biggest recruiting point. Is what LSU's doing offensively. So that's why these next few days are going to be very important for LSU, Paul, because they're going to work hard to keep Joe Brady on staff, and it's going to be hard because NFL teams have come after him, and I think he's agreed. We reported he's agreed to stay at LSU and signed a deal, but unfortunately the deal lets him out, like a lot of college coaches, lets him out for NFL jobs or head coaching jobs, and so he's not going to go to another college for an assistant job, but will he go to the NFL? And it's a big thing. Keeping him is a big thing for recruiting, and we're going to see in the next few days probably if they can do that.
Ross Dellinger, great to have you with us. A pleasure, and get some rest, my friend. You've been working incredibly hard. Always good to have you on.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Ross Dellinger, who just has chronicled the LSU story better than anyone. It's been amazing to watch, and being an LSU graduate, a native, and having covered that beat, he had a unique perspective. Read his stuff if you want to go back and gorge your football appetite with LSU conversation, which most of us do. We'll take a break. More to come. We are going to continue with your calls right after this.
I'm not really sure yet. Gotta go home, talk with my parents and Coach O, make everything, do everything the right way. But LSU is always gonna be capable of doing what we did this year. We got great players, great coaches. So as long as we believe in each other, we'll be able to accomplish anything. in the second half, we brought out some new plays that Coach had put in, some stuff we used to run back in the past, and we just executed. Everybody did their job, and then having Mike back was a great help because Mike's a great pass rusher and he's experienced. So just having him on the field was more confidence into our defense. It's tough to be the feeling of last night, but I know my best football is ahead of me. I know that the player that I'm becoming each game, I'm getting better. So just to be able to take that leap from what I was a year ago to now is just a big blessing. I thank God to be able to be in this position with my coach and my teammates.
And if somebody had told you in Game 5 of 2017, after you guys lost at home to Troy, it's going to be okay, you guys are going to have the greatest season ever in a couple of years, what would you have said?
It would have been hard for me to believe, just coming off that kind of loss. That was actually crazy. But, who would have ever thought we would have been here a year ago, just a few of us guys knew what we were capable of coming into this season. So we all knew what we could do, so we just trusted each other and we made it happen. That's where I think you have to have a good team for your offense and your defense to feed off each other. I feel like when we play, we feed off each other. Every play is a big play. It's Joe throwing the ball to Jamar or Clyde making a big run. Our defense feeds off that. When we make a sack, our offense feeds off that. So to be a great team, you have to have those guys to be able to feed off of each other.
Welcome back. Glad all of you are here. John is in Louisiana as we continue. Great conversation with Ross. A few more guests, of course. And let's head off to John in Michigan. Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
We are doing fantastic.
I'm in Ohio right now. I was in Saginaw, Michigan last night watching the game.
My condolences.
And I'm a truck driver, so I was in my truck watching the game. And when Joe Burrow threw the touchdown pass to go up 21-17, I started screaming and jumping in my truck. And
hey, by the way, were you driving at the time?
No, I was at a truck stop.
Oh, okay, good.
And so during the commercial break, my head terminal's in Birmingham, Alabama. So I get a call from there. I'm thinking it's my dispatcher, and this lady comes on and says, "Did you get in a wreck?" And I said, "What?" She said, "Did you get in a wreck? You set off the sensor saying that the truck was hit."
Oh my goodness.
And I started laughing, and I said, "Heck no, LSU just scored." And she said, "Oh, you're one of them."
Typical Alabama.
I said, and the game's still early. Expect more of this.
That's
and
great.
She made a big sigh and said, "Duly noted." And I ended the conversation with "Go Tigers."
Go Tigers.
But yeah, I just thought that you would get some humor out of that.
I did. Listen, we haven't heard from too many Bama fans today, but I'm sure that I'm sure they slept well last night.
Yes.
They are. Hey, listen,
heard...
don't knock Bama. They are the defending Citrus Bowl champs.
Hey, I like fruit.
They
can
glad,
bring us a
glad
fruit
you were
basket.
safe, man. Be careful if you got a Bama boss celebrating too much. Frank is on in the car in Georgia. Hello, Frank.
Yeah, hey, Paul. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
So I was just curious. I wasn't able to see the end of the game last night and any of the interviews with Dabo in terms of how gracious he was in defeat. But one of the things that kind of started getting under my skin a little bit and, making me a bit irritated was, this talk track that he's decided to go on with little old Clemson, little old Dabo, and little old Trevor, and we just have no chance. And to me, that just kind of played itself out. And then last night, to me, the score could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, listen,
than what it was.
It was a 24-point game at the end. If Ed Orgeron wanted to run it in at the end and missed field goal, it was very close to being an absolute rout. I will say this about Dabo. Yeah, he played the game before, but I thought he handled it with class afterwards. He understands the significance of the game, and I think he also afterwards understood the moment. He's seen Saban in defeat. He's been there before. I mean, don't forget. I mean, this is Dabo's been to the playoff 5 straight years. He's 2-3 in the play. Not 2-3, but he's 2-2 in the championship game is what I should say.
Yeah, that's certainly respectable. No question
It's
about
not
that.
bad.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, good show today, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. Take care.
I mean, overall, I mean, he's won. You know, to get to the championship game, you have to win a game. So, but you know, Saban's the same way. He's 2-2 against Clemson. So, it all evens out, or maybe it doesn't. But thank you for the call. Will is calling next. Will is in Georgia.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Will, I'm doing great.
Well, great. Hey, man, look, first of all,
Made it to the end of the season alive. That was my goal this year.
Hey, no doubt, and you must have a little bit of jet lag. I mean, you're in New Orleans one day, and you're at your studios another day. You're all over the place.
You know, I tell you what, I think I feel better today than I've felt in a long time. Maybe that because there's nowhere to go tomorrow, but it was an exhilarating experience being down there. I mean, I want to say this, and I'll shut up because you called. But I will say, standing there on the sidelines, about 20 yards from the honor guard and president and Mrs. Trump, and when the lights went out, the national anthem, the place went crazy. And then they also showed the scene. I know that you had it on television as well. I think the servicemen were in the UAE. It was one of the most chilling things I have ever seen, and maybe just being that close to the center, the center of power in this world, and then seeing the troops salute. I mean, I was blown away by it. I mean, it was impossible not to tear up.
Well, you know, Paul, I'm a former United States Marine myself, and I got to tell you, every time I hear the national anthem or those jets go by, it just makes me want to cry.
Well, I ran to a man at the airport this morning who just 25 years in the Corps, and we had the exact same conversation. And you know, again, I do not ever discuss politics because it's none of my business what you believe, and frankly, I don't know what I believe anymore. But it was just, it has nothing to do with. I mean, still the president of the United States, and
absolutely.
And as a college football fan, I was emboldened the fact that that he has by going to 3 games this year, he's embraced the sport and brought more awareness to it.
Yeah, you know, as a Marine, you know, we think like this. We don't really put a whole lot into the politics. We're pretty much the big stick of politics.
You bet.
And that's how we pretty much look at, you know, that's how we look at things, you know. But that's the way it is, and that's the way it should go. And thank God for the United States Marine Corps and the United States Army and the Air Force and the Coast Guard and the Navy.
You better believe it.
You know, God, dog, heck yeah. Hey, look at here. We have a mutual friend that you may not know. I mean, here I am in Savannah, Georgia. My name is Will Jarvis. I work at Gulfstream Aerospace, by the way. You know,
my!
That little company that makes the what I like to call the global champion of aircraft.
I've heard of them.
You know, and yeah. Anyway, we have little small pockets of LSU fans, and every Thursday is LSU Purple Day, and so we live it up all year long. That's what we've been doing, and just celebrating LSU. But anyway, we have a mutual friend, and his name is Parker Grelecki. You know Parker?
Yeah, I do. I haven't seen him in a while, but I do know him.
Oh yeah. He calls me Crazy Will. That's my wife's cousin.
Your poor wife.
He's a hoot. Yeah, my wife. Yeah, that's my wife's cousin.
I will say a prayer for your wife tonight. Being related to Parker.
I know, right? I mean, he's a hoot. He really is. And boy, does he have a memory. So you will see him again. But when you do, just say you talk to Crazy Will.
Oh, I will. No, I'll be ready for him when I see him.
Yeah, he'll know exactly who you're talking about. You know, it'll be a hoot. Yeah, really will. Well, Paul.
Well, hey, listen. Thank you, and
yeah.
Thank you for what you've done to make all of us safer and better. Thank you very much. You got it. Great stuff. We will take a break. I hope people saw it on television. That scene. We were still live on our show on the field, so I was not catching everything the monitor had. But man, what a scene when they showed. They went from the field to the honor guard to the president to the servicemen, and they all saluted at the same time. It was a chilling moment. Then I cut to my left. Coach Orgeron was about 10 yards away. Man, he was grinning like, man, am I the luckiest guy in the world to be part of all this? We'll take a short break.
Is ridiculous. I know he's got the help of silly receivers. I know he's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a beast at the end. Joe Brady, the scheme. The numbers, they're stupid.
But, Greg, it's not just ridiculous. I mean, it is, but it's been record-breaking. He just continues to break records.
It's so funny. Like, we're sitting here like, oh, my gosh, it's like, this another day at the office for Burrow? It's like,
what do you expect?
It's kind of an off night. He only played 3 good quarters. Like, it could have been 8. You know, it's one of those things. Like, nothing surprises you anymore. I mean, he just has an ability to place the football and extend plays, and his receivers did a great job of taking advantage. There was one drop by Chase in the end zone down the left side, which I'm still mad about, but I'm over it. But he did a great job of seeing the pressures, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, anticipating throws, and being accurate when the plays were there to be made. The throws that he had to execute tonight were not easy, but he did so consistently, especially on those throws down the field in tight windows, getting it up and down over defenders.
They're letting some LSU fans on the field now. It's about to get even more wild and crazy in this place. What a time of celebration for this LSU fan base, a fan base that Marcus has been
How
waiting
bad does
for.
Spears want to go on the field? He is like shaking. I can feel his legs shaking, and the whole desk is shaking.
Guys, look at Marcus. He collected confetti in this little bag right here.
First of all, turn around the other side. It's his makeup bag.
Well, anyway, don't do the man like that. But either way, for LSU fans, what does this mean as you look at these people coming out here on the field?
Well, it started. I mean, Greg and I talked about it back in November when they had an opportunity and went to Tuscaloosa and won that game. It had been so many years of when will the offense change? When will they be able to compete with Bama and beat Bama? And then they take the next step. And then you go and play Georgia in the SEC championship. And you have a game that, you know, frankly, we thought it would be a lot tougher for them to win that game. And then you beat Oklahoma handedly. It's magic. Like, we talked about Trevor Lawrence never losing a college football game. And I'm not sure if Joe Burrow, if these chain of events don't happen, Trevor Lawrence is probably a national champion again. Yeah. But this was just one of those situations where you have, you know, as a Tiger fan, I don't want to say it's a one in a lifetime, because hopefully you get some more. They'll be on the recruiting and stuff in the next couple of days. But the bottom line is this, man, this was a team of destiny. Everything came in the right place. Everybody knew where they wanted to be, and the responsibility was left to these players to go out and execute. Yep. And for the most part, every single game that they played, they dominated.
Welcome back, and what a great day it has been. Just got my feet propped up and laid back, listening to the callers mostly celebrate. Terry is in Georgia. Hello, Terry.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing great.
Well, you've had a long day. You was up at 5:30. You was the first tweet I saw this morning. That was
I was heading to the airport, and I'm like thinking, are we going to debate whether this is one of the best teams, or am I going to end it right now? And as the king of the universe, I decided I'll end it right now.
You are the king. Well, you had a shorter night than Orgeron did. He said he at least got up at 7:30, and you probably went to bed at about the same time.
Yeah, but he did have Popeye's chicken, and I did not.
Yep.
So I think he won. I think he won the evening.
I wanted to talk to you about Trevor Lawrence. I saw that kid played in high school in Cartersville, and then, you know, obviously most of his games at Clemson. And he just had an off night. His throws, you know, he had some open receivers that he seemed to be just overthrowing his receivers a little bit high. Do you think it had to do with the coverage? Do you think it had to do with the pressure? Do you think he's not as good as we think he is?
He is every bit as good as we think he is. I think some of it was pressure. I think some of it was he was pressing a little bit. I mean, he did this early in the season too. I don't want to go back to an earlier narrative, but I think the problem for Trevor is that he hasn't really been tested very often by
Right.
by good defenses. And
Yeah.
he's seen a grand total of, let me think, 2 good defenses all year. And I think sometimes I think early on he was just like, I've got to make this interesting, so I'll try to make some Tom Brady-like throws, and he got in trouble, and then he got back on track against the bottom of the barrel in college football, better known as the ACC, and remember the first half of the Ohio State game, he wasn't so much out of sorts that everything was out of sorts, and he got off to a pretty good start, but that LSU defense was pretty stout.
Yeah, it seems like those corners, that tight man-to-man coverage, he just didn't have very big windows. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Paul, I wanted to get your honest opinion, how you feel about this transfer portal, how it's really affecting the quarterback. Do you think that's good for the game?
Well, I think ultimately it probably isn't good for the game, but it's something that I believed in and argued for, so I can't come back and say this is what I wanted and now we got it and it's terrible, but it is wreaking havoc. And the player from Houston who came into the portal last night, he got bored after 4 games. He said he's coming back, and when they have more players, and you always knew he was leaving. So it's coaches hate it. I mean, they absolutely hate it because it makes their job far more complicated. But I am a believer in the student athlete, to use a phrase uttered by the administrators. I think they should have more freedom. Does this go too far? Maybe. But once you open that door, you can't close it.
Can a team such as LSU and Clemson that played last night, can they accept a transfer player until their season's over? Or like Georgia, they picked up the kid from Wake Forest, and Mark Richt thinks he's the best quarterback in the world, and UGA is going to be the best team next year that they've ever had.
Mark Richt was with us last night, and he said Jamie Newman is going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. Hey, listen, thank you very much. I want to say this about Mark Richt. I've known him a long time. We didn't talk about this on the air, but as some of you know, he had some serious heart issues about, maybe 2 months ago. He told me that. I'm not going to get into the details because I asked him off the air. I was very interested, having lost my dad at 15 from heart disease, and it's something that always haunts you. So I asked him about the situation, and he was close to the edge. He got to within a mile of the hospital. He knew he was in big trouble when he was able to get there. But his. He had some serious issues with his arteries, and he looked great. He lost 40 pounds, and it's a long road back. But he looked fantastic, and really thinking of him because that's a tough thing to go through as you're in your period of time when you should be enjoying retirement, so to speak. Let's continue. More phone calls here. Rob is in Louisiana. Hello, Rob.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
We are well, thank you.
Thank you. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
I got 3 things I want to mention to you. First, Orgeron's transformation, and second, Venable with his 317, and then finally, maybe the NCAA looking at the targeting situation. That many of the Clemson fans are bringing up today, but Orgeron first.
Please, Clemson fans.
Yeah.
Take the winner off, okay? You got a great basketball team.
Oh yeah.
you beat.
Hey,
you won at Chapel Hill. You got Duke tonight. Football's over.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Paul. Orgeron. I think one of the greatest things that's happened is his transformation too, from the time that he went to Ole Miss. If you look at what happened at Ole Miss and you follow his history from there, and he ends up in LSU. I was a skeptic when LSU hired him. I questioned his coaching abilities, but I always admired his recruiting abilities, and I think that his transformation, and get your input on this, I think his transformation from being a micromanager to one where he hired great people around him, as he constantly mentions, and lets them do their job. I know that he's about to shut the gates on kids in Louisiana going to other schools. What do you think?
Well, Rob, if you know you're from Louisiana, but for those who don't know the whole Ed O story, he was a screwball. I mean, and he went to LSU, quit. Went to Northwestern, nearly got tossed out. He, by his own admission, he had a drinking problem. I mean, he was a rebel rouser. And, he finally calmed down and, I can't remember who it was. It was Tommy Tuberville not long ago telling me that he gave him a job and he said, well, Tommy, I don't have any play at Miami, so I don't have any place to, it may have been when Jimmy Johnson was there. Tommy was running the defense, and he said, I don't have any place to stay. He said, well, stay with me for a week. And Tommy said, it ended up being about 3 years. And, and he learned under Johnson and Erickson and ultimately with Tuberville as a mentor and later Pete Carroll, had to deal with the real world. And, the Ole Miss experience, a lot of people have failed at Ole Miss, okay? So I think he was devastated when he didn't get the SC job, but that's one of those situations where it's like an unanswered prayer. It turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to him because he kind of had to start over again. And there was an article I read today where 5 years ago he's watching his son's basketball games or football games at Mandeville, and because he had nothing to do, and then finally he got give less credit. He did bring him back, and because he had a fantastic reputation as a recruiter. And I told the story once, but I'm gonna tell it again. I'll never forget when he was up for the LSU job. I texted Lane Kiffin, and I didn't know the answer. I said, Lane, is he really that good of a coach? He said, he's an unbelievable coach. Now, he worked for Lane, as you probably remember, at Tennessee, and he was an unbelievable line. He was like considered the premier defensive line coach in the country and one of the 2 or 3 best recruiters. And he was finally able to channel all the things that had gone wrong. And by the way, a lot of us have been there before, and I'll throw myself in that boat where you keep running into some failures and you don't think you're ever going to get that break, and then you just finally you work hard enough and you get a break, and it is luck sometimes, and then it's what you do with the luck.
Well, and recognize too that he's taken advantage of this opportunity, and I'm one of those people that believe that he does bleed purple and gold and one team, one heartbeat.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
And so hats off and kudos to the man for his growth, and I just think that. With Joe Brady and Ensminger, it was like a manna from heaven after what we went through with Les Miles.
I have been tough on Les Miles. The problem with Les Miles, he just would not change. He was a good football coach, but he wouldn't listen to anyone. He thought he knew everything. And when you win the national championship and you nearly win it again, sometimes you just think you're bulletproof. And Les found out there were a lot of people with loaded guns aimed at his head. We'll take a break. More to come on what has been a fantastic Tuesday afternoon celebrating the national championship of the Tigers. We'll look ahead a little bit later on to who will be favored next year, and you know how important that is.